Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Death by Disney podcast. I'm on a mission to watch all of the films that Disney, the company, ever has produced. And sometimes I get this, feeling that I want to watch a movie that's not a Disney movie. And sometimes I get a feeling that I want to watch a movie that is a Disney movie. But this weekend, I had my son, and he was mentioning the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch because we were astounded that that was the highest grossing film this year in North America. So I mentioned that I hadn't seen the original, and he was like, "What? How can you not see the original?" Especially with your podcast. But really, I haven't seen this because this film came out in 2002, and that was when I was in university. So I was definitely not going to spend money going to see a Disney film in university because I didn't have a lot of money and I wouldn't go see a Disney film. I did see Titanic like 6 times that year, or something. No, no, Titanic was earlier, and I wasn't in university. I had left university, but I am rambling. So, I'm going to give you a review of Lilo and Stitch, the classic, yes, classic Disney movie from 2002. If you don't know what the story of Lilo and Stitch is, and I actually didn't know myself. I thought it was kind of like Moana because they're both about they both happen in the Pacific, which is, the probably largest region of Earth, but anyway, this is the plot. A young and parentless girl adopts a dog, quotation marks, from the local pound, completely unaware that it's supposedly a dangerous scientific experiment that's taken refuge on Earth and is now hiding from its creator and those who see it as a menace. It stars Davy Chase as Lilo. Chris Sanders does the voice of Stitch, and I'm gonna massacre her name, but Tia Carreri as Nanny, the older sister. Um, yeah, so on this podcast, I give you my review, I give you some trivia, and then I usually interact with a negative and a positive review. So I'll get to the trivia and interaction in a moment, but I'm just gonna spoil it for you, spoil my review for you. I'm not gonna give you a positive one to interact with because I'm so positive myself about this movie. I give it a 10 out of 10. Like, really, this is one of the best Disney movies I have ever seen. And for this project, I have seen at least 50, 60 Disney movies now. This is the best Disney movie. Well, at least for me. And I'll tell you why. 10 out of 10. It's 10 out of 10. I think that there are two main reasons why this is such a great movie. Because one, it is a sci-fi movie. It's a genre movie which is done in a Disney style. So it works completely. Um, the other main reason that I think that it works so well is because the character of Lilo is a real person, you know. You might think that she's a bit weird, but you ever notice in Disney movies and in live action movies especially, the the characters aren't weird enough to be real, you know? Because she has all of these like crazy hobbies, I guess. I don't know. Her age isn't defined in the first movie here, but she has this camera and she takes pictures, unflattering pictures of tourists from the mainland, and she has them on her wall, and she like there's these fat people who are sunburned, and she's like, oh, aren't they beautiful? You know, so she has like these, uh, you know, very, very unique interests. So that makes her much more of a character than other similar characters in Disney, but also in, you know, family movies that are not directed towards Disney. Like I'm thinking of, and this might be a crazy callback, but Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey. Of course, that movie is about the dogs and the cats, the dogs and the cat, But there are children in that movie, and they don't seem like real children at all, because they're just there to, push the plot forward. There's another great moment in the beginning of the film where, and that's actually, it's a great sequence where uh, Lilo is swimming in the ocean. So she's a young child. I mean, it's a bit dangerous. She's a young child. She's swimming in the ocean. She's feeding some fish a peanut butter sandwich. And then the shot goes along and shows her as she's like rushing to this hula practice. She gets into the hula practice. She's like dripping with water. And then she's starting to like take her place in the line. And this is my bad hula dancing. She's starting to take the place in the line. She's dripping wet. And the instructor is like, hey, Lilo, why were you so late? And she's like, oh, I was feeding this fish peanut butter, and my sister didn't have any peanut butter, and I'm not going to feed the fish tuna, so I had to go to the store and get some peanut butter. So I got some peanut butter, I made a sandwich, I gave it to the fish, and now I'm here. And the instructor's like, oh, okay, great, but why did you need to feed the fish a peanut butter sandwich? And she says something like, well, he can control the weather. And actually, this story is going to be important later in the story, because she's also going to tell some crazy things that really happened to her, but she won't be believed immediately because the craziness, right? And another girl says, and those girls are like just really well. I mean, we don't spend a lot of time with them in the movie, but they're really well drawn as being like, yeah, this is how a little girl would perceive people who don't like her when she's young. But anyway, one of those girls says, so she says, Lilo says, oh, the fish can control the weather. And then the little girl says, you're crazy. And then immediately Lilo jumps on her, punches her in her face, pulls, I mean, you don't see everything, but she says what she does later, pulls the hair, bites her, and it's just, that is the reaction of a child, right? She is like a real fleshed out child, which is great. Another thing that I liked about it is, I guess that they were originally thinking about setting this film in Kansas, but in Hawaii, it gives you, so the film is set in Hawaii, it gives you two things that the setting in Kansas wouldn't be able to do. One, when the monster alien Stitch arrives, the destruction is going to be limited to one island. He won't be able to escape very easily. So that's one thing. And the other thing is like Hawaii has this really strong indigenous culture, right? And you can see the interplay between like the native Hawaiians and the white Hawaiians, and you know, like it's not pushed in your face that this is Hawaii. It's just Hawaii, right? So the interesting, like, it helps build the world because there's two actors. Tiara Carari is actually from I can't pronounce that name, but she was in Wayne's World. She's the babe in Wayne's World. She's from Hawaii, so she provided some information about, like, you know, dialogue, what they could say, what the accents sound like. And I think there's another actor who also was from Hawaii who did the same thing. So, you know, it's America, but it's not like a tradition. So Kansas would be, it's hard to say, hard in a Disney movie to distinguish Kansas from, I don't know, Wyoming or something. Although there probably are things that distinguish those two places. It's really much easier with Hawaii, and then you have this clear culture which is different than the mainland. So, and it's also not pushed in your face. Um, if that makes any sense. It's not like overwhelming, like, hey, we're in Hawaii, 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 Hawaii. It's just what people who live there probably uh, experience every day. So I like that as world building. And as I said before, the sci-fi aspect of it is just great. I think I can only remember one other Disney movie that's a sci-fi film, which is The Black Hole, um, which I haven't reviewed on this podcast yet, but I have watched, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting, I would have to say. So, yeah, that's what I liked about it. I really enjoyed the interactions between Lilo, because she's just an interesting character in her own right, and Stitch, who is this force of destruction, and how they sort of become friends and navigate this world, which is dangerous for them both. You know, so it's really, really good. So here's some trivia. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I was trying to mention that, but as I mentioned before, Hawaii born cast members Jason Scott Lee and Tia Carrere, Carrere, I don't know, help the writers with dialogue and accents. And the other interesting bit of trivia is, although animators tried using computer colored but hand drawn digital cells instead of traditional hand painted ones, this was the first Disney animated feature to incorporate watercolored painted backgrounds since Dumbo, um, because they wanted to give the film a warmer, more nostalgic appearance than modern Disney films at the time. And that's a good thing about the art is the characters. You could say that the character designs of their faces are a bit ugly because their noses are a bit too big, but actually I liked that as well because Lilo, she's not like a beautiful princess little girl. She's like a realistic looking girl. Maybe she's a bit ugly, but she's realistic. And I like that because a lot of modern animation, and probably it's the fault of Disney, have gotten to this one kind of animated style where there's big eyes and every character is beautiful, you know. So this is a throwback in a very, very good way, and it really holds up from 2002. It's a great, great film. So I really liked it, obviously, but let's talk about some negative opinions. I've picked the lowest, uh, lowest ranked 1 out of 10 rating on IMDb, and the one that was the most popular. So here it is. Worst thing out of Disney Animation Studios since, well, hard to say. It might very well be the bottom of the barrel. Rock bottom. Worst animated flick from Disney ever. Train wreck of a film. Stitch is horrible. Not funny, not cute, not amusing, not appalling, just bad and boring. Family setup, orphaned kids, teenage older sister about to lose a younger little sister, lame. How could an animator blow the chance to draw Hawaii? They did here. Same with the outer space sequences. How they spend $80 million dollars is incomprehensible, pitiful. And that's from Kevin Jeff from 2002. And I think that people, when the movie came out, a lot of people really didn't like it because it is so different than a traditional Disney film. And I think that I found Stitch really funny because he is this force of destruction, but he's so tiny. You know, he's so tiny and little and cute, and he's trying to destroy everything. There's this great scene where he lands, and then there's a frog next to him, and he's looking at the frog, talking at the frog, and the frog's like, "What are you talking about?" He takes out a gun and he's like, "Ugh!" And the frog's like, "Ah, ha, 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 ha." Well, it's a frog, so he doesn't go, "Ah, ha, ha, ha," but, the frog doesn't say anything. One thing that might be a little bit difficult to accept in this movie, in terms of suspension of disbelief, is the fact that, you know, Stitch is clearly not a dog. Clearly not a dog. Dogs don't look like that. Um, but people are pretending that Stitch is a dog. And if I looked at some of the other negative reviews of this movie, generally the criticism was about Stitch's destructiveness, and that's the character, right? The character is destructive, and not every movie is going to have main characters who are immediately likable and redeemable, you know. But Stitch is redeemable. He finds his family, and there's lots of great lines like Ohana means family that have been in our culture, since then. So I mean, I don't think people say that often, but I have heard that phrase outside of that movie. So it did have an impact on a whole generation of people. And I can understand why people would want to see that movie later, because of all of the live action remake I'm talking about, because they did it very cleverly. So they did it when, you know, the people who had seen Lilo and Stitch as a kid grew up. They were like, "Here's a movie for you," and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, that's great." And I think that, as I said before, just the fact that Lilo is a real character makes this movie great. The animation is great. The fact that it's sci-fi is great. It's just great, 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 great film. So I don't know. Obviously, I liked it. Um, what did you think about the movie? Leave your reviews in the comments down below. Thank you. Bye bye.